Page 138 English Defense Sermon. I would like to debate about to think of the Abraham and Sarah, God's promise and human life. 1. Think of Abraham and Sarah. Hearken to me, you all that follow after the righteousness, you that seek the Lord, look unto the rock whence you are hewn, and to the hole, to the pit, whence you are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For the Lord shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and the desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of the melody. Isaiah 59, 1-3. What did the to Abraham and Sarah is a lesson to the servants who will be blessed according to the covenant promised to them. God always given His word to a representative person and shows evidence that will be a lesson to the person who will be blessed according to His word. Therefore, to those who will be the remaining servants on the day of the judgment, He said, remember Abraham your father and Sarah, who gave birth to you. When Abraham was alone, I called him and blessed him, and made him fruitful. Now, regarding the things to consider about Abraham and Sarah, he says the following. 1. Live a life of obedience. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, get you out of your country, and from your kindred, and from your father's house, unto the land that I will show you, and I will make of your great nations, and I bless yours, and make yours name great, and you shall be a blessing, and I bless them that bless you, and curse him that curse you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of the Haran. Genesis 20:12-1-4. When God appoints a representative person, He expects that he be a person of the obedience. If a person who has been given a great mission doesn't obey truly, he cannot read the messages. Therefore, God, who chose Abraham, appeared to Abraham and said, leave your country, your relative and your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curse you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. At this time, Abraham religiously obeyed the word, left the Haran, and worked in obedience. If Abraham, who had been given a global vision, had not religiously stayed forward, God would not have been able to carry out the great work. However, when Abraham obeyed, God began to do all of the works. When Abraham obeyed, God began to carry out his words. Abraham seemed like a fool to people, but God regarded Abraham as a friend. What we must do unconditionally obey God's command. 2. Offering the sacrifice of the obedience. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and raised the wood in the altar, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on that altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you any things unto him. For now I know that you are pure God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a lamb caught in the gate by its horns. And Abraham went and took the lamb and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Ireh, as it is that this day in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, said the Lord, for because you have done this sin, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and in the multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned into his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. Genesis 22, 9 through 19. Abraham experienced that obedience is better than sacrifice. When God told Abraham to offer his son as a burnt offering, Abraham graciously decided to offer his son as a burnt offering and placed his son on the altar. God recognized that it was a sacrifice and prohibited him from killing his son. Even though he did not kill his only son, God recognized that he had offered him as a sacrifice and praised Abraham greatly. Our sacrifice is that obedience becomes a sacrifice before we offer a sacrifice. In this way, when those who have been entrusted with a mission obey without sparing their lives, we recognize that we have died for the Lord, even though we have not died, and we recognize that we have offered up nothing. Even if someone offers a sacrifice, if there is no obedience in the heart, it is not accepted, and even if they cannot offer completely, if they obey to the end, God recognizes them more than those who offer and act hypocritically. For example, when a servant does his master's work, the master does not expect material help from the servant, but demands that he sincerely obey that the master tells him to do. Thus, God does not receive material things from us and rejoices, but only sees our obedience and rejoices. God did not want Abraham to kill Isaac, but to obey the command and offer Isaac to him. Likewise, when we offer our body to God, God does not want us to die, but to bear much fruit as a sacrifice of obedience without dying. The martyrs of the past were given a blessed death because it was time for them to leave this world, and the transformed saints who will receive the blessing promised to Abraham while they are alive. Just as Abraham offered his son, and when he offered his body completely, he spared Isaac's body and did not kill it. So God always recognized our bodies as a living sacrifice and allows the holy seeds to prosper in the new age, according to the word that he walked through Abraham's through our bodies. 3. All nations are blessed through Abraham's obedience. God said that all nations of the world would be blessed because you obeyed his word. If we look at this, we can see that Abraham's typical obedience is answered to us since we were missionary unit. The fruit of the obedience of the servants who went before us become fruit for us. When we think about the peace of the faith they took and obey no matter what trials come, the words promised to him will be fulfilled for us. Conclusion. We must think of Abraham and Sarah and believe that no matter how difficult the hardship that come our way, great blessings will come. The covenant that God established with Abraham after his trial is the promise that the blessing of Eden will come to those who, as transformed saints, endure to the end even when they encounter hardships and disasters. Therefore, we need to read this passage carefully. The Lord said that we would comfort Zion and comfort all her waste places. He would make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. When we receive these blessings, we will go through our temporary trials and receive eternal joy. Number 2, God's promise and human life. There is nothing that moves between God and man without the word. Because God created man in his image and established the word of the promise between God and man. And through the word, he established the relationship of the Father and the Son, and in peace. He gave the word of the promise to man to share his glory. Now the word of the promise and the life of man can known through the text as follows. 1. God's promise and life on earth. For this is as a orders of the Noah unto me, for as have sworn that the orders of Noah should not move over the earth. So I have sworn that I would not be word with you, nor rebuke you. Isaiah 15:4-9. After the flood judgment, God accepts Noah's holy body with a sweet odor and said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man. As long as the earth remains, judgment and darkness, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. God's promise of these days, the earth remains means the time when man can live on the earth. Since God made this promise, He will take responsibility and move so that the earth's orbit is not disturbed. If God does not move according to this world, He cannot be the true God and cannot have the right to judge the world. Therefore, no matter how strange or scientists may say, it would be useless to say that humans would not be able to live on Earth. Clocks made by human may break down, but the relative orbit of the stars that are removed by the omnipotent God Himself will not be derailed at all. So we do not need to worry about change in the 4 seasons of the spring, summer, fall, and winter, or we do not need to worry about crop failures of the or climate changes that makes it impossible to live. 2. God's promise and life is the eternal world. For the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not appear from you. Neither shall be covenant of my peace removed, say the Lord that has mercy on you. Isaiah 15:4-10. If God's promise to all humanity is fulfilled as it is, and it is the earthly life of humanity, is the world where the eternal promise is fulfilled as it is, then the world where the eternal promise is fulfilled as it is called the eternal heaven. Therefore, when it says in the text, the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you. Neither shall my covenant of peace to be removed. It is speaking of the eternal world. It is on Revelation 21:4-7. Since the God is the God who gives the word of the promise and takes responsibility for it and works, He says God is the God of the truth, the true God. There is not a single word in the Bible that is not a covenant of words. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write what these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is thirst of the fountain of the water of the freely. He that overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Revelation 21:4-7. Other promise is the promise that He will do what humans cannot do. So our life on the earth is also movement of the living, moving moving business and economic systems by God, working what humans cannot do. Likewise, we believe that God will grant also a moral body and a world without causes, death, pain, or tears, just as He allows us to live our present lives. This is called faith. In other words, we can be certain that human history is the 6,000 years history of the mankind for the fulfillment of God's promise. Then the coming of the next millennium and the coming of the infinite era is the legal truth without any doubt. God moves the life of this world according to the word of promise, so that when this world is destroyed and the new heaven and the new earth is established, the personality of the person who will enjoy glory on that earth is formed, and the number is filled. And this is the work of the moving on the earth according to the promise. God does not move the natural world or the era without any purpose. For example, plants that cannot move and animals that cannot speak are acknowledged. So much more so that change of the era that moves in the world of the best human beings cannot be disorderly changed. Conclusion. We believe that knowing the secret of the God's promise is the highest wisdom and the knowledge of man, and practicing the words of the promise is the highest righteousness and the happenings of man. Because God is the righteous God and the source of the blessing, it is the unchangeable truth that living according to His promise will be a blessing. The curious period is around 2025 through 2026 for the unification of North and South Korea. The first three and/or half years around 2025 through 2028. The rapture and the World War III around 2028. The next three and/or half years around 2028 through 2032. And after organizing the kingdom department, the coronation and departure, having wedding feast. Revelation 6 to Revelation 19:9. The Armageddon War is expected around 2032. The wedding feast, the inauguration ceremony of the King of Kings and the Terracle, Revelation 21. And the Millennium Kingdom are expected around 2035. Then go until the end. You can see the English and Korean text of the more detailed bench sermons that the word dispose in the homepage blog copy of the Candlestick Central Church on the internet. I wish you a blessed life in which the fear of the Lord is your joy in your daily life. I pray that every day of your life is free from sin and has nothing to do with sin, and become a bridegroom to welcome the Lord of the second coming. The entry of the 3.5 years before the last week is very real. I hope you are in the peace of the Lord until the next time. Thank you. The 10 Commandments. First, you shall have no others gods before me. Second, you shall not make for yourself on either on the form of the anything, and you shall not bow down to them or worship them. Third, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Fourth, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Fifth, honor your father and your mother. Sixth, you shall not murder. Seventh, you shall not commit adultery. Eighth, you shall not steal. Ninth, you shall not give a false testimony against your neighbor. Tenth, you shall not commit your neighbor's belongings. Thank you.